I grew up with a family that valued education and instilled that in me and my siblings. And so having the opportunity to move to the US was really a dream come true, or the American dream. My life was disrupted at a very young age. And so I had to do the unthinkable and leave the home, leave my, everything that I've known at that point to move to a new country and be submerged into the new culture. And so I give kudos to my parents for taking that leap of faith and strength to recognize the opportunities that would be given to us, given the fact that education it's so big in my family. And all I knew was I'm gonna go to school. And having missed 3 years of middle school because of the war, really put a big factor in the continuation of pursuing education. And so again, the influential part of moving to the US was pretty much because not only we wanted to be safe, but also there was so many advantages in terms of having quality of life and opportunities and essentially a new home that we were seeking. And so truly this time allowed me to understand the value of community and of understanding and appreciation for one another. And that's why my life kind of took a turn once I finished my degree to doing work that was meaningful, and that was giving back to the community.
You talked about how important education was to you and to your family. How did you choose Uofl? How did you come across Uofl? How did you end up at the University of Louisville?
So aside from being in a family that recognized quality of education, to mentors that I had built through my middle school years and high school, to fully becoming a Cardinal. I remember I wore, Uofl shirts, in my 8th grade when I went to middle school. And so it just really kind of led me to Uofl because how I felt during the time when my mentors used to tell me about the diversity, the initiative that Uofl has for students like me. I had to find myself in the midst of chaos and learning new things and becoming again a professional adult. I needed to have someone that cared for me. Having only been to the US for 5 years, I was still navigating the language. I was still learning. I was still trying to understand how college, is in the States. And so it really, for me, I realized that this is truly a school where I can ask questions and I will get an answer. It's big enough school, but also where I can probably come have a conversation with my professor and be able to, learn and have meetings with them. And I didn't want my school to be just a place where I went and felt like I'm a student. I wanted to be part of the school. And so I found myself, involving myself in numerous opportunities. And yes, it was challenging and insightful and diverse, but it's also prepared me, to where I am now. And I really don't think I would get any other quality education from anywhere else. And I had opportunities to go to different schools, but I knew my community meant a lot to me, and I knew how University of Louisville is connected to the community and its respect to immigrants and refugees and every other community members that I'm very, passionate about.
That's great and very powerful too. You were talking. You had only been in the United States, what, maybe 5 years when you came to U of L. I can't even imagine being in a position like that. Looking back, if you could give your freshman self one piece of advice or a little advice as you think back to who you were when you first arrived on campus, what would you tell that person?
Oh, goodness. You know, I really would tell myself that, kind of listen to that inner voice and say, you can do this, believe in yourself. You know, I was facing many obstacles. Not everyone understood my challenges and my barriers to be at that point where I was. My acceptance to U of L was an accomplishment in itself, given the fact that just 5 years later, I was in a war and my fate was unknown. And so I had hidden all those thoughts in my head. And to be sitting at a desk and being able to get education, it's like you think this stuff, you watch this in the movies and then it happens to you. For me, I needed someone to tell me that, but then I became that person. You know, I told myself, you know, the only person that had my back was myself. And I had to have myself accountable and set standards and goals. And so I wish I would have told myself more that you could do this. There's going to be, you know, challenges, but there's also going to be an amazing experience. And I think every freshman going into the first day, feels that pressure. And so, like, naturally, like everyone else, I did feel that. So I truly would just tell myself, hey, you could do this. You could do so much more. If you have survived the war, another 4 years of studying should be a piece of cake.
That's definitely one good way to put things in perspective. If you go through a war, you can make it through college.
Yes. So I pretty much held myself accountable. I really did. I mean, I didn't give myself a break, which, going back to now, I think it was for the better, because I needed that constructive you know, lifestyle for me to do good, because it's, again, I had been through so much, and so I was dealing with a lot of background traumatic experiences, and so I had to focus on school 100%, and that became my, you know, my institution for everything.
You said that once you started at U of L, you realized that when you got into your professional career, you wanted to do something to give back and to make a difference, and that would really hold meaning. And certainly you're doing that now in your professional career and the work that you're doing in our community. I want to spend a couple minutes talking about that, and just kind of a two-part question. If you could start by talking about what are the biggest challenges you face in your current job right now?
I'll have to start with my background, why I decided to do what I do now, and in terms of being in the midst of chaos and community and social injustice. It's because of my upbringing. You know, it really took a lot of self-development, and not because I received an education that it allowed me to understand how communities work and how government work and how impacting it is for many of social groups. And so when I graduated, I majored in political science, and with a concentration in criminal law and public policy. And I said, you know what, I want to become a police officer, so I'll go get my minor in justice administration. And so I really had merged myself into many arenas in understanding how everything works around living in our community, and understood what was happening at an early age and early on in my career. And so after I graduated from college, you know, initially I thought I was going to be a lawyer. So that's what everyone does when they go through the political science department, which happens to be one of the best schools. So I'm biased, but it's okay. And then I realized that my senior year that perhaps that's not me, but you know, this is during the recession. And so I had to do what, you know, any person who graduates has to do, and that was to get employment. And so I really enjoyed research, and I was working for a law firm for about 3 years and thinking that this was going to prepare me well for law school. Never did I realize that that was a way for me to tell me that this is not the path you should choose. And one day I wrote my 2 weeks notice with no plans. It was the worst decision I ever made. But I honestly think if I didn't make that decision that day, I don't think I would be here talking to you, because really everything led from that decision to me being where I am now. And I have to kind of give that, thought process and say, well, I'm kind of glad I did that, even though it was a disaster at that time. So I found myself immediately looking for volunteer opportunity because I really was lacking something inside me. I had forgotten who I was. I think, college had become, a lifestyle in itself. And so I kind of was erasing the memories that were lingering a little bit. So I, again, decided to live my life, which was great. But at the same time, I lost myself in that. And I realized that without my background, I am not the person that I wanted to be. And so I really had to dig deep in my roots and understand why my life has been this way. Why me? Why did I have to experience the war at such a young age and really see massacres and see, just the worst in humanity. And so I realized that why not me? I think there's so much purpose in deciding why it happened to me and why I'm actually alive and here and doing the work that I do. And it's because I think I really owe it to give back. And I truly believe that I am given all these opportunities because, I don't know, some higher powers recognizing what's inside me, the passion that I have for helping people. And when I found an opportunity to volunteer at Kentucky Refugee Ministries, I wanted to go back where it started. It's a full circle with my life, if you kind of see it, both personally and professionally. And I realized that I thought, well, maybe I can go help change, these people's lives. Never in a million years did I think that it would actually be them changing my life and enriching my life and showing me strength and grit and will to live and move on and fight and just keep doing, and just keep going. So like really accepting challenges as they are and excelling at them. And so really I gain a lot of perspective in life. And you would think I had that before, but life itself took a toll on me, and I was very fast forgetting who I was. And so this really became a good reminder of why I needed to put myself in this line of work, which is very challenging. It can take a toll for someone who has the experiences that I had to be kind of brought back. It certainly brought a lot of memories that I didn't want to remember. I had worked so hard to be at the point where I kind of shut down what happened to me in the past. And so meeting refugees fresh off the plane who had just literally from one day in the camp in a war-torn country to now in the US, and they're giving me all this information. I understood what they're going through, and I think I had that empathy for them, but I also took it really deep because then it almost felt like that's me again, and so it's a really weird dynamic how I was merging my life with them. And it wasn't until I realized that if I'm not capable of helping them, in a better state, that I should see how their strength and get motivated by that. And so it was a lot of self-development emotionally too, to understand why we're again designed to do what we do. And it's because it's almost like I didn't choose this. It truly was something that became part of my life. It became a passion, and I thought about it every single day, and I knew that I cannot stop doing this work. And so there's a lot of challenges with every job, but the work that I was involved, and it's not just refugees, you know, it's immigrants and the homeless population that I'm very passionate about, or, you know, working with, you know, different social groups here in our community. It really just, I recognize that to a point where I cannot just stand still and act like nothing is happening. You know, I go right back to those flight mode thoughts that I had as a kid, trying to survive and trying to, you know, stand up for an injustice. And so that's really why my professional career, I guess you could say, has been in that environment where you're constantly fighting, you're really are trying to make a difference, and you're there because the community needs you. And I feel like it has to be me. If not me, then who? And so I really don't, you know, it doesn't seem as a challenge anymore. It's more like, bring it on. I'm, you know, again, I go, you know, I have that strong mentality of perseverance and not giving up and not taking a no for an answer. And so I always go, again, I mentioned earlier how I said, if I could survive the worst of the worst, I certainly can, you know, survive any other obstacles, which these are not really obstacles. They may be pebbles or stones, but not obstacles or barriers that, you know, we ought to see. And I do have a different perspective the way I look at things.
Sure. Well, I think you partially answered my next question, but I was going to what is the most rewarding part? And I think you talked a little bit about that in terms of making a difference and truly impacting people's lives.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's many things. It's from a refugee young girl to realizing her potential and realizing that she's no longer, you know, scared, and that she is me. I mean, that age, you know, and knowing that if she perhaps, you know, mimics or looks at my journey, then she can have that. And so that's just one small factor of what the work that I have been involved has done for me. But I don't want to be selfish. It's not about me. It's always been about the people that I serve and work with. But I will be lying if I say that I don't feed off of that energy that is built as a result of creating that relationship with a family of, you know, 5 or 6 who still are struggling to navigate, you know, social services and learning how to do their taxes, or how to apply for financial aid at school, or what should they do to get a driver license. So those little things have been something that I like to be part of it, so that I know those things actually make a big difference in their lives. And this happens daily to me. You know, I maintain relationships with every client that I manage and I work with, and seeing them succeed years later, it just really validates all the advocacy work that I did, every conversation that I've had with city officials, with, you know, every protest marching that I've done. It really just, again, shows me that this is the right thing to do, and it's the human right thing to do. It's, you know, helping someone who is in need is, as human beings, we're designed to do that. And so I could never turn my back on that. And that's, for me, is something that I don't take, I mean, I don't forget about it. It's part of my life. I wake up with it, I go to sleep with it. And it really has enhanced my life in terms of, again, looking at things differently. And let's just say I never have a bad hair day. I can even complain about anything else in life. You know, I have nieces and nephews now who are born here, and one of the things I say is how hard school is. And then I quickly remind them of these refugee kids who just, you know, really have endured so much in their young lives. And they're here and they're excelling and they're getting grants and scholarships and they're going to college. And I mean, that to me is, I could literally cry now because that was me, 10, 15 years ago. That was me. I was that kid who struggled and waited. I didn't have a trust fund for my parents to pay for college. I had to work 40 hours a week to, just to be able to afford my life and school and do full time and try to manage the grades. And so it really is about enhancing someone else's life and making sure that there's a path for them, and it's not just refugees, it's immigrants and every other person that has been in my life. I try to mentorship. It means so much to me. And so really, I go out of my way to make the time and resources for the mentees that I have in my life, because I do know what it's like to be looked after and kind of guiding you through and navigating, because it's extremely challenging when your parents don't have the language skills and they don't understand how the system works. So you're the parent, you're the daughter, you're the kid, you're pretty much the main person that decides your life. And so that's been my journey up to this, point. And again, I wanted to be part of their lives. And that's what really is most rewarding for me, is being there for them and kind of seeing from the background the accomplishments.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to ask, I have a couple questions about your time at U of L, and a couple more about what advice you would have for people that you might mentor. But I didn't want to, you hit on such powerful stuff there at the very beginning that I really want to make sure we do a good job of telling your story.
Okay.
We could go back, and I just want to, I know your bio, but I want to capture on video maybe you saying something about, when I was, I think, what were you, 12 years old or 13, how old you were when you came here and where you came from, and have it in your voice.
Yes, so originally from Kosovo. Kosovo is a very small country that just got recognized nationwide as a republic country. And in order for me to be here in this country, I had to go through a very brutal war. I had to see loved ones die. I had to see my childhood home burn down, my pictures, my clothes. And when I came to States, believe it or not, we came with only our clothes in our back. We had been in refugee camps throughout the last 2 months before we came to States. And so that's when they were checking us for malnourishment, any other disease that may have occurred. Because I had spent 6 months in the forest with very limited food and resources. And so at the age of 10, I believe I looked like I was 5 or 6, just because of the malnourishment that, growing up, obviously you have that fear and you have everything that's happening to you. And so there's no growth there, and time becomes, stand still. So nothing matters. The only time you just live for the moment, and the next time you're going to be alive, and you're like, okay, how do I plan my next day? Are we going to be able to survive this day? And so my life has been built on those moments. My life has been, it's been a journey that I could write not just one book, but I could write a library of it. And that's a result of injustice. And that's a result of when you're a small country and people take advantage of you, and they want to change who you are, change your name, change your language, and then you're no longer able to say who you truly are. You had to either do that, accept that, or, get killed. So of course, the people that we are, I'm proud to say I'm Albanian, because we tend to be very strong and very much like, you know what, we're not going to give up, you know. And so that mentality of not giving up is what led us to be here, despite, you know, the many awful things that happened during the war. I mean, you know, you really, there's no good days. It was a battle between, are they going to kill us or we're going to die starving? Those were the two choices that I had in life for 3 years. And at that time, I mentioned earlier how I had to skip grade 5th, 6th, and 7th. I no longer knew that school existed. You know, your mind becomes so occupied with the survival mode that you really, not only you mature, but also you gain these new skills that you feel like, I'm an adult now. I remember being an adult since I was 9. But that's because I think our as human beings, we're trained to, you know, quickly become that person that we need to be at that particular situation. And as a result, I end up really developing skills that has served me well now. But I can say that it has been an easy journey. Nothing about my journey has been easy. I can say that I have been blessed. I have been given a second chance. I mean, we don't talk about this so much in life, but you know, it's amazing what you can do when you get a second chance in life. And that's why my attitude towards problems and things, it's not something that scares me. It's more like, hey, you've been through this, you could do this. Let's navigate the problem. Let's find the solution. And I'll have to say thanks to that experience. I think I wouldn't be here, you know, being able to accomplish so much more than I ever thought or anticipated to, as a result of those very, very difficult, you know, times in my life that, I mean, it really did a lot of damage mentally, emotionally. I mean, no kid wants to have to deal with gun and violence, and to be exposed at a young age and where your life is truly disrupted. I mean, I was in school when they told us get out of the building, they're burning the school, and so we had to jump out of our windows. And again, it's those moments that define who you're going to be as a person, as a human being. And I couldn't see myself doing anything else what I'm doing, because as a result of those moments that I had been through. And yes, as hard as it was, and as difficult as it was, it's just made me who I am now, and really put a lot of perspective in life, and not taking anything for granted.
Well, thank you so much for that answer, and thank you so much for sharing your story. I mean, it's so inspiring that you're over here making me emotional just hearing about what you've gone through. So I really appreciate you opening up and sharing about everything that's led you to where you are today. I want to be mindful of your time, but you have so much good stuff that you're sharing. So I have a few more questions if you
Sure, yeah. No, I got all the time. It's up to you guys. I mean, I'll be honest, I feel honored, and that's why I'm willing to share my story, because hopefully someone will read it and see themselves in me. And that's the only reason why I'm so open right now, because, you know, I pick and choose who I want to share. Not everyone can be, you know, understanding of what I've been through. And so it's really meaningful that I'm able to share this story for this award.
Well, we really appreciate it, and we take it all to heart, and we hope to share this story, and we hope that Arts and Sciences shares it, the whole university shares it, and of course us at Alumni we definitely will be. I wanted to talk to you almost like a day in the life of, you know, if you could just start by saying what your official title is, and then take me kind of through, I know every day is different, you hinted on it a little earlier, but kind of what a typical day for you looks like these days.
So these days, well, I have to mention that when COVID happened, was working for Americana Community Center as the Director of Marketing and Development. And I can briefly talk about that experience because it's important to note the accomplishment that I was able to achieve with my team there. But also to note that because of what's happening financially with all the nonprofit organization, unfortunately my department, my team and I had to take a step back until further, I guess, grants were given or approved, and as a result, we still don't know. But I am just finished my Emerge Kentucky training. Just to give you a background of it's a very prestigious, I would say, organization that is really built to train women to run and win for official seats. And so that's been a goal of mine. I mean, you know, I got my degree in political science, so I thought, well, if I have this background in education, certainly I can, you know, I can hopefully run one day for office knowing that I'll have a better chance at making policies that work better for our community members, knowing the community that I was involved in. And so that has been a really good way for me to build relationships with women across Kentucky and understanding their policies in rural areas and how different it is from, you know, where we are here in Louisville to say Paducah, and it really was enlightening for me to learn all this information that I didn't have before. I wanted to understand Kentucky. I want to know why there's so much disparities and differences between a city and a state. And so really that gave me a good understanding and idea about local governments and then local laws, really. And so upon finishing that, I decided that I always wanted to go back to school. It just was a matter of time, having the time to do it. You know, I had to do some traveling and I was working out of the state. So when time presented itself, I knew I had to come back to Uofl. And so of course, business school has always been, you know, a school that I admired. I enjoyed having my economics courses there, though they were very challenging and tough. I wanted to be back. I think I wanted to understand, because when I was working nonprofit and the development and marketing, I understood how people react to different messaging. And, you know, there's a lot of components that make up these positions and how we talk about the nonprofit sector. And so I really understood, I needed to understand that from an educational perspective. And I knew that I wouldn't get any better education anywhere else. And having been accepted to the MBA program is just, my goodness, like I'm still pinching myself. I just had my first week of classes online and I'm with Dr. Klein, who's just a wonderful professor and makes it very easy and really to a point where it's just an amazing way of how I anticipated that was going to be challenging. And I want to understand after going back to school after 12 years, but I really appreciate how much thought they had put onto the online, you know, version of the school, and I'm just enjoying learning all these new things and kind of like confirming a lot of that stuff from just real life experiences. So that has been my chief, you know, focus right now. I'm also volunteering with numerous organizations and centers where I am able to give back my time, my skills if they need it. you know, whether it's fundraising for an event to fundraising for, you know, their budget. Just proud to be part of many amazing organizations that they accepted me and they recognized the value of my education and what I bring to that table. And so I truly found myself busy. Again, I'm very much that person that looks to do things, you know, has to be active, has to be around people. And so Louisville is such a great, you know, city to give you all of this. And you just have to either ask or look for it. And that's the kind of person that I am. You know, I have to be in a constant environment where I'm learning something, where someone is enriching my life, or, you know, it has to be a very rewarding experience for me.
That's great. I wanted to ask you the question, I guess what is on everybody's mind is you've had such a fascinating life and such a great career so far, that what's next for you? You know, you still have so much in front of you.
Yeah.
How do you see yourself spending the next 5 or 10 years, or what goals do you have ahead?
I, like many, you know, young professionals, individuals like me, I have many goals, realistic goals, I'd say, as right now we have to be really mindful of what's happening. So I had to understand what I need to do in the next couple of years in order for me to see myself in that 5-10 year plan. Obviously, I'm looking forward to graduating, you know, with my MBA. I cannot stress enough how much I love Uofl. I mean, it's, again, you may hear a lot of students say this, that their life were changed and they had a great year, but that's not, for me, it goes deeper, and it's just more because I was giving a second chance. You know, my professors understood my story and they helped me achieve. They didn't let me fail. And that's, to me, like, I need to be at that point in life where I'm able to do the same. And I feel like being part of Uofl will give me that opportunity to perhaps help the next person who is in need of someone to advocate for them. Again, it really goes back to my passion, to helping people, to helping future students that look like me, that are like me, and been through similar situation, because I know what it's like to overcome these barriers and obstacles. And I need to be in that room where I'm able to advocate for those people. And so being part of Uofl in whatever capacity I am is, you know, truly something that I'm looking and seeking in the next few years. And again, I will go back to mentioning how I needed to learn and understand how policies work around different groups in our community, and the social injustice and economic, you know, workforce and all that has really led me to understand what the city needs. And so how can I be part of that change? Obviously will be decided later on in life. But I do have the training and education that I'm very proud, you know, to say that whenever that time comes, hopefully with the help of the community members, I'm able to find a path that is contributing in a broader, you know, way of impacting those lives positively. Because I know firsthand who's suffering right now and who's going through difficult, you know, times. And when you see the changes that are being made not favorable to this group of people that you think, you know, need the most help, you understand why you need to do what you need to do when the time comes. And so that's what I'm hoping that I'll have the opportunity, whether it's by volunteering or, you know, that would be something that, you know, will be decided when that time comes. But, you know, I do know that I will be in the public service. I will be helping people, and I will always extend my hand to anyone who needs it and make room whether it's on a desk, a table, or a room. We all can do this together.